Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today I've got another movie review for a film that I just finished watching today, and that is a film called Bloodfather from 2016, starring Mel Gibson. Definitely a part of the series of movies of Mel Gibson's comeback onto the mainstream and into cinema itself. And I will say that for this being a Mel Gibson action-esque film dealing with the relationship between a father and a daughter, which I think is something that has happened a few times in the films that Mel Gibson has done, this is a very good version of that storytelling between the relationship and developing the relationship between father and daughter. And so overall, I actually had a very high opinion of this overall film. As you can see from IMDb, it's got a 6.4 out of 10, which is not the greatest score in the world, but it's also not total crap either. Now, am I saying that this is the greatest film of all time? No, not necessarily. Am I saying it is a fun movie that I think most people should probably give a try at least once in their life? Yes, especially with the fact that it's on Netflix right now, so very easy to see. And since we're all living that quarantine life, if you're running out of movies or TV shows to watch, this is something that I could definitely recommend. It stars Mel Gibson, Erin Moriarty, who as soon as she was on screen, said, okay, I know this person. I don't know where I recognize her from. Turns out she plays one of the characters from The Boys, and that is where I most remember her from. As soon as you see her, you'll be like, oh yeah, I recognize her too. Diego Luna, who, of course, is from Rogue One fame, because remember that Star Wars currently is trying to actually develop a Cassian Andor series featuring Diego Luna, and Diego Luna himself is a fine actor, just unfortunately Cassian Andor is not that compelling of a character. But with all that being said, the real story of this film is absolutely Mel freaking Gibson. I just always love when I see Mel Gibson on screen buying into his roles, and this one specifically, I feel like he was able to really draw from his own personal life experiences. It deals with a father who has, an ex-wife whose daughter has been missing for several years now, and who has had this estranged relationship with them because he got involved with drugs, he got involved with alcohol, he had to go to rehab, he spent time in prison. And so just to me, it just kind of has that mirroring effect of certain events, especially dealing with substance abuse, etc., that Mel Gibson dealt with in his own life. And I always feel that when actors are able to take on roles that have that personal connection to them, that they're able to bring something just a little bit more than other actors would. They're able to kind of bring it to that next level, as it were. It kind of reminds me a little bit of John Wick, right? Where you have Keanu Reeves, who starts off in the very beginning of losing a loved one very early on. And I imagine that he was able to take the experiences of him losing a loved one very early on as well, and be able to kind of draw upon that pain, draw upon those experiences, and really just elevate the role overall. Mel Gibson is still a badass. I mean, it's just so cool to see this guy who is as old as as old as he is now. He's not ancient by any means, but he's definitely, I would say, in that Liam Neeson era of, oh my goodness, I can't believe these older guys are being, I guess, action heroes. But I think that Mel Gibson's one of those few guys where I think he pulls it off so well, because he has always been such a talented actor. And it's really sad that a lot of the personal choices that, personal issues that he's been dealing with have kind of overshadowed that fact. I think that Hollywood especially has just tried to basically blacklist him in a lot of different things and in a lot of different projects. And so it's good to see that he is still getting work, and that he's getting work into movies that I think for the most part work very well. So this is just a few of the notes that I made for this movie. Firstly, good acting. And this is, from the top and to the bottom. Mel Gibson is obviously fantastic. Diego Luna has a very good supporting role. Erin Moriarty, I think, plays an excellent job as his daughter, who herself is dealing with drug addiction issues. And it's just really cool to see young actresses like that who have had, a few roles here and there, who are able just to show that they're actually very talented. They actually really can bring it. They can go on screen with the likes of Mel Gibson, who has become so iconic now as a Hollywood personality. Obviously, he's fallen so far from grace in Hollywood, but he is still a big-time Hollywood name, especially when you look back just to the history of the movies that he has done. It's very well shot, very well edited, so the pacing is very good. It's only an hour and 28 minutes long, and so it's very short, which is why I liked it, because I love when movies are nice and compact. They don't try and put too much in there. They could have easily extended certain scenes and extended certain backstories if they wanted to. And to be honest, there's some stories that I want to know more about. Like, there's a relationship between Mel Gibson and people that he met in prison, and there's this connection at one point in the movie where he goes into prison to talk to one of his contacts there. And I would have loved to have found out more about that relationship and dive further into it. But I think that it wasn't needed for this story in order for it to turn out to be okay and for it to be able to work out the way that it did. And so I'm happy that it was able to stay at an hour and 28 minutes because it was able to be a very small, self-contained story that was, for the most part, pretty good. So the editing, cinematography were spot on. The writing, I think, is the weakest part of this movie because it is not a perfect film. It definitely suffers from some issues like not being able to dive further into these relationships, having the daughter coming back into the life of the father and these relationships kind of just randomly coming into being. You're not getting, as I mentioned before, diving too deeper into the histories of these characters and knowing a little bit more about them. However, with what you're given, I think that it's absolutely serviceable to the point where you're able to watch the film and say, okay, I understand everything that's going on. Everything makes sense. Everything connects. Are there possibly some issues here and there with plot holes, developments? Sure, but that's, of course, the case with almost every single movie. But they're not so glaring that it really bothered me all that much personally. I'm sure there's some people out there that dive further into this, whether it's how they use guns or anything like that, because those are the kind of things that I never dive into too much because I know friends and have friends, rather, that will, especially when it comes to a movie dealing with guns, they will literally count the number of shots, and if they don't reload, that's something that they'll nitpick on and get into. So I don't focus on those elements. So I'm sure there are other issues here. I look at it usually more so from a stepping back from more of a big picture perspective, focusing on little details here and there, and just in the big picture items, this all works together as a coherent story. It is very intense. I wrote down at one point, Mel is freaking great. Again, Mel Gibson, as you can just see from this one image, he goes in this film. Would I say it's the best performance or one of the best performances he's ever done? Maybe not necessarily. Is it a good performance, though? Is it a good Mel Gibson role? Yes. And it's very hard, really, I think, to find bad Mel Gibson performances. I'm sure there are some out there that I have not seen yet, but it's just great to see him back on the screen doing this type of movie. It's a lot of fun overall. Great supporting cast all throughout. You actually even have, let me see if I can pull up his name because he's not listed in the top 3 stars, but William H. Macy, that's right. William H. Macy plays the character of Kirby in the film. He plays his sponsor. William H. Macy is just a really talented actor, and he's always very good in those supporting role characters, especially. So seeing the dynamic between just great actors, William H. Macy and Mel Gibson, that was fun to see anytime you saw that on screen. There was a couple of issues that I had with the film, one of which is that there's at one point some commentary on immigration. However, it's very minimal, I would argue. It's just very... it's very small and very subtle that either one, you might not even notice that it's a commentary on it, but also I think most of you would just be able to say, okay, well, because it only lasts for like maybe a minute of this scene or of this, of this circumstance, you're able to get past it and you're able to forgive it. So it really isn't that big of a deal overall. The ending could have been a little bit better. I think that it definitely led to a logical conclusion. It all makes sense. They didn't try and, basically do everything that they could have done with the ending of this movie. But I think that the ending definitely could have been more epic. You could have had a more epic standoff. You could have had a more epic fight scenes leading up to anything else. Just there's a lot of other things, action things that you could have done. But I imagine that they had in their mindset a very short form film. And that's the reason why, possibly also because of budgetary constraints, they couldn't go much further than what they actually did. But I think that there's a really great arc in this film with Mel Gibson's character from where he goes to where he ends up, and I think that it's for the most part very well done. This has been, of course, adapted from a novel, so I just wanted to mention that this is not an original story. It has been adapted, but I can say it's a good adaptation. I have not read the book, but this all makes sense, and whenever there's an adaptation that just works and makes sense, it kind of makes you wonder if the novel dives into some of those relationships, dives into some of those histories of the characters, especially the one that Mel Gibson plays. And with all of this being said, I have to give this movie a solid B. Again, is it the best film I've ever seen? No. Is it a bad film? No. Is it a mediocre film? No. I would actually say it's a solid film. Again, that's why I give it that solid B rating. I think it's a film that you should try and go out to see if you have the time. Again, it's not that long of a movie, hour and 28 minutes. It is available on Netflix right now, and I would say it's a good time. I think it's worth accessing if you have Netflix. If you don't have Netflix, I'd say if you pay like $5 or so for the movie for a rental or something, that might actually end up being worth it because, yeah, it's a good time. If you like Mel Gibson especially, I think that you'll overall enjoy this film. But let me know your thoughts about this. Have you seen the movie Bloodfather? Again, this is from 2016, so it's been out for a few years now. As I continue to review films for both this and the secondary channel, I have actually 4 or 5 reviews coming out this week over on the Welcome to Asgard channel. So click the eye above my head if you want to find out access to how to get to that. It includes reviews for films like Onward and many others that I talked about on the last stream that we had on the main channel. I cut up the reviews I did at the end of that stream and put them in as videos. And so if you're interested in my thoughts on those films and want official reviews, check out that Welcome to Asgard channel. And it looks like I'll be doing possibly some more reviews on the main channel as well, seeing that things are just very slow in the box office right now. And I could talk about the Ezra Miller situation, but I feel like people that I like and trust are covering that pretty well. But we'll have to wait and see. But let me know your thoughts about this and everything we talked about in the comment section below. Like this video, smash that like button, hit that subscribe. It helps us out a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now a huge shout out to my April Patreon and Subscribe Star members. We have animation commentator Brian P., Dion, Divex, Elizabeth M., Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, Hail Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, The Hunker Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Intertrap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, J.J. Jonathan Jerembeck, Kenneth Cameo, Lady T, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange Hat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Perpetual Punster, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, The DJD Show, and Tina B. And to my Subscribe Star members, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Dark Star 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nevadon G. Adams, and ZK Man. And out of step with reality, I'm going to go ahead and leave that blank spot just previously in case any more people decide to become a Patreon or Subscribe Star member over the next few days. Just remember that as soon as you sign up, you are immediately eligible for any of the benefits. If you just sign up at the $1 tier on Subscribe Star or Patreon, you get a shout out at the end of every single video, including my live streams. If you're a $5 or up backer on either platform, you get access to exclusive giveaways where I give away several 4K Blu-rays, digital copies every single month as well. If you jump up to the $10 tier on either platform, you get access to all of that, plus you get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with my friend John the Flick Pick of John Flickinger and the Flick Pick fame. We do a bi-weekly podcast, so every 2 weeks or so we do one. So you get probably about 2 or 3 depending on what's going on, probably more so now with everything going on in the craziness of our world. But you do get access to that. Also, if you are at that $10 tier, it means that you get to take part in the Q&A part of that podcast. And so about 24 to 48 hours before the podcast, maybe even longer beforehand, I'll leave a post in the Patreon Subscribe Star. You'll be able to leave a comment on a question that you want us to answer, on a topic that you want us to cover in a future podcast as well. All of that you have access to. And if you're a $25 backer and up, you get all of those things. Plus, you get a t-shirt for your first month. That's right. You get a free t-shirt, high quality Odin's Movie Vlog t-shirt. So just make sure if you're at a $25 and up backer level, you leave your address. That way I know where to send that to. And also I will be messaging you to get your size information. That way I can send that out to you as quickly as possible. But you also get access to an exclusive Chosen of Valhalla live stream that we have once a month on this channel, where I invite you to be on the show. You can either show your face or not show your face, or hey, you don't have to show up at all. It's totally up to you. And we talk about a wide variety of things. We talk about movies that you've been watching, modern things going on in the pop culture, and pretty much anything that you yourself want to talk about. So if any of these things sound interesting to you and things that you'd want to do, please hit that Patreon Subscribe Star link in the description of this video and think about joining today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And as always, God bless.